All right, let's move along. So now we are entering the next two sessions, which are about announcing something new. And Blockstack is here to announce something new. But before, give us the context for this announcement that you are making here for the first time. And the context being that you announced something else at Consensus earlier this week.
Yeah, so hi, welcome everyone. So we just announced yesterday at Consensus this new app store for decentralized applications across the entire ecosystem. It's called app.co, and you can visit it today and check it out. We had like a pretty great launch. And the goal here is to really provide an ecosystem-wide way for consumers both inside but also more broadly outside of the industry to be able to discover decentralized applications and see why they're going to be so great for them, and also to provide enormous value to the developers across every single chain and platform: Ethereum, Blockstack, IPFS, EOS, Steam, Neo, everything. You can find decentralized apps across there, and it provides a place for developers to publish their applications, get traction, and then also just like see what's out there and see what is yet to be built, and how they can compare with other applications out there.
So this app store is not just about Blockstack apps, is that correct?
Correct.
So how are you bringing the other apps into the store?
There's a submission form on the site, and any developer can just submit an application that they know about, and you know there's different sections of the site, but there are featured sections by category, and then there's also rankings by popularity. So it is meant to be pretty organic and pretty surface really the highest quality applications. Anyone can like submit it, just like you see on Product Hunt. Anyone can hunt a product.
Do you curate them and decide which ones are approved or not?
We do have some filtering, and specifically, is this a decentralized app, and is this like just two things? Is it a decentralized app, and is it usable? And if it doesn't pass one of those two tests, then it doesn't make it in. But if it does, then we're not going to there's no like censoring or anything like that.
Great.
Yeah.
So
also, the curation is just there initially, and later on there will be like a decentralized way of registering the apps on using our domain name system, and then the community can actually help populate like which apps are getting featured.
Great. So this leads us to what are you announcing today?
Yeah. So I think today, first, I think broadly, whenever people think about decentralized apps, there's this assumption people are always thinking about desktops, right? Like you have to download some software on your desktop, then you're trying to use a decentralized app. And if you look at the broader picture, there's more usage on mobile devices. And that's a problem that we have been looking at for a while. And we're really excited to announce our mobile SDKs, so both for iOS and Android. We pushed it out to our developer community, and people can start building mobile apps which are decentralized, right? So I think that's a new concept, and we will actually see a lot more usage on mobile devices in the long run. There's an app on Blockstack called Stealthy. It's a very secure, decentralized messaging app, and as you can imagine, for messaging, you really need a mobile device for it. So I'm really excited to announce that Stealthy is actually coming up with their mobile version very shortly, and that will be one of the first use cases of our developer SDK.
Well, why is this important? I mean, what do you hope that it will generate, this mobile SDK that you have?
Yeah, so the way we are looking at this is, I think most people believe that we are still in the infrastructure phase for decentralized computing. There are still many hard challenges that people are working on in the infrastructure phase. We kind of worked on those things in the previous 3 years, and we were heads down working on solving the hard computer science challenges there. And now we believe that we are actually coming out of the infrastructure phase into the apps phase. And now we're really focused on solving the challenges for developers to be able to get user traction, right? So mobile is almost like a no-brainer, right? You should be able to publish an app on mobile devices.
Okay. So.
Yeah, I'll just point out one other thing, which is there are so many applications that we know in the space that are wallets or that are ways for you to just hold and transmit money, but we are still we have still yet to see an explosion of like true mobile applications that are decentralized. And like this is something that's like really important moment because we're looking to enable this and like just unlock this new potential. You might see a lot of the applications today for mobile or like mobile web. You might use Toshi. You'll see like you can pull up a web view on top. We believe that some of the most powerful applications are going to be actually mobile native, and mobile native on iOS and on Android, and that's like really important for us to focus on that and enable these types of applications because they're going to be the future.
So how is it different from the Toshi and the Cypher of the world? Because they are mobile and they have apps inside. So help us understand that for the audience that is not technical.
Yeah, so in that case, those are, we can just talk about Toshi. So that is a browser and chat application for these decentralized apps. And it allows you to, when you click on an application, it opens up a web view and you can see a mobile web application. They might add support for native applications in the future. I'm not sure what their roadmap looks like. But specifically what we're releasing is the mobile software development kits. And that's what the developers can include into their iOS or Android applications so that they can use Blockstack authentication and they're able to connect to the Blockstack storage system and use other API calls. It's different. It's also compatible with Toshi, so like if they add support for this, then it'll work. You can think of them as two different things. One is a development kit that developers can integrate into their application, and the other one is a discovery mechanism and a view that can open up the applications themselves.
Yeah, and I think a mental model that people can use is the libraries that we have announced. You can think of that as like that's your window to this decentralized web, or people call it Internet 3.0, and it gives developers direct access to Internet 3 infrastructure from their apps. Right, so when you're using the app, now you have like direct access to the different functionality. It could be storage, it could be authentication or something else, but I think that's the mental framework to use here.
What's the timing on the availability of this SDK?
It's already live. Developers can go and check it out.
And then what's involved in terms of developers using it? Is it fairly easy to use? What libraries come with it? What's the extent of what's available?
Yeah, that's something that we actually spent a lot of time on, right? So I mentioned the infrastructure phase earlier. And in the last year, we really focused on narrowing down the interfaces for developers, right? So for example, a storage system, most developers don't need to worry about the performance of the storage system or the reliability of the storage system. For them, it's just, they're putting a file, they're reading a file. And we're really trying to make it as easy and as simple as possible for the app developers. Like one of the things that we've noticed is the app developers, they don't have like a very deep understanding of the underlying infrastructure, and they don't need to, they shouldn't, right? They just assume that the underlying infrastructure should be able to scale or it should be reliable. And we are trying to truly enable that for the developers, because that's actually a pretty hard thing to do.
So for example, an application like Graphite. Graphite is it the most popular application on Blockstack right now?
I'm not sure exactly what's the most popular, but Graphite is one of the top for sure, and Stealthy is as well. So
for those that don't know, can you say what is Graphite and what is Stealthy?
Yeah, so Graphite is a document editor. You can think of it as Google Docs and Google Sheets competitor. You can collaborate with people, any of your friends that are also on Blockstack, and the pretty incredible thing is it doesn't use any servers. It just uses, other than the actual storage systems that it stores the data in. And then Stealthy is a peer-to-peer end-to-end encrypted messaging application. And this is also decentralized. So you might be familiar with Signal, but of course, with Signal, you're relying upon a central entity to do the identity management, to manage your address book and all these other things. So it's really a big step forward to be able to use an application that's for messaging that's really decentralized.
Okay. What else is going on with Blockstack? You've been, I think, on a roll with a lot of new announcements. What else?
Yeah, so I think one big announcement that came out was we've noticed a lot of like backlash from Facebook and Cambridge Analytica. We saw Mark Zuckerberg testifying as well, and we've seen a lot of interest from our developer community to try and build social networks, and we decided to support that initiative by putting up $1 million for different teams. So teams can get 100K each. So we are funding 10 teams to basically just go ahead and try and build a better social network.
What has been the response?
Pretty incredible. I mean, we've had actually hundreds of teams submit. Some of them very, very impressive. I think what we're really starting to see is a new wave of very next level talent entering the space and starting to build these decentralized applications. If these decentralized applications are going to compete with the traditional apps, they're going to need to have a better experience and also be decentralized. You can't, you can't compromise on these things, and so we need to get the brightest minds in here. That's really what we're trying to do with this launch and with a lot of our other efforts. And we're seeing a pretty serious uptick in both the quality and the quantity of the talent that's coming in. We expect some really good social networks to come out of this. And I will point out, it's more than just Twitter and Facebook. There are teams submitting applications like decentralized SoundCloud and decentralized, decentralized social networks for very specific industries, decentralized photo social networks, decentralized social networks for location and things like that. So there's a lot of ideas out there, and we expect to see some pretty cool things.
But is it a challenge to then get the users? I mean, on one aspect, you have to build the technology and say, now we have a decentralized Twitter or decentralized documents and so on. But then the next step is to get users. Where are we in the user motivation to then switch from a centralized model to a decentralized usage model? I mean, to answer a little bit maybe is, we have seen some bad things happen with Facebook, and people say, okay, I don't want this to happen anymore. But some other things like Google Docs is working fine. What has been the motivation for users to have gone to a decentralized Docs? And how do you expect this to play out? It's not just about building the technology. What I'm saying is, how do you get users to switch?
Yeah, I feel like right now, the state of the industry is that there are just no good alternatives to things like Facebook or Medium or Patreon, right? And I think I really would emphasize the point that Ryan was making, that people are not going to switch over if it's a worse experience, if if onboarding experience is clunky, or if they don't get the same kind of performance and reliability that they're used to with cloud computing. And that's why I think once you solve those challenges, and there are some new types of functionality that were simply not possible in the Internet 2.0 type companies like Facebook, I think that's when you'll see that people have real alternatives, and the friction to switching over is so small that we'll see a significant uptick.
Okay. What's going to happen in the next 6 months? What's your vision? In part for Blockstack, but also in part with the whole movement of decentralization. What do you expect to see in this year?
Well, we predict that this year is going to be a really big year for decentralized apps. We are on the cusp of something really big. We saw the explosion of CryptoKitties, Stealthy and Graphite emerged. We're also seeing some very interesting decentralized social networks, some of which haven't launched yet. So I think that's going to be really big. Just like in 2017, there was a really big craze around new tokens and ICOs. 2018 may very well prove to be the year of decentralized app adoption. That's one big thing, and then we just have a bunch of other things cooking up that are pretty interesting.
You think social could be the first beachhead?
Yeah, it could. I would say we have a few favorite areas that we believe are most likely to take off.
Can you mention that?
I wouldn't say necessarily social networks, but I think it's definitely one of my top three. I also believe in applications that are payment or token powered or powered by digital goods, right? So it could be marketplaces, it could be pay for work, pay for an asset, things like that. I think that's a whole second category that's extremely interesting.
Because you're seeing demand, so that's why I'm asking what other
absolutely.
segments. Okay. When is the next Blockstack Summit? After Berlin?
Yeah, Berlin was great. I think we will probably announce the exact dates later, but we are kind of like settling on a frequency of every 6 months. And one reason for that is that there were around 10 startups that were building on Blockstack that presented in Berlin. And the next one would again serve as almost like a demo day for them, where they can actually come and present in front of the entire community and show people like, hey, these are the real applications that are being built. And I think that's very important given the speculation that goes around in this industry and all the craziness. There needs to be a focus on developers. There needs to be a focus on real usage and real technology.
So I couldn't get you to announce where the location is. You're not going to say. Give us a hint.
We can't announce the location, but I will point this one thing out, which is we try to make it global, and we want to be able to cover the Americas and Europe and Asia, Africa, everything.
Probably
so,
Asia is my guess.
Very, very well possible.
Okay,
but
on that note,
I just want to point out one last thing, which is something that's really, really a big deal that we're working towards launching our blockchain, and we have a mining system that has 3 prongs. There's the traditional mining. There is what we call app rewards mining, where anyone who builds an application on Blockstack will get like just continuous flow of cash just by having an application that gets usage on Blockstack. And then the third is Web of Trust mining, where everyone who signs up will get tokens. This is a really big deal because it provides a stream of revenue for applications that are just being built. It provides a way for them to get off the ground. And in the meantime, before we've launched the blockchain, we actually have a community rewards program where people who build applications and people who contribute to the community or the code in any way get payments in tokens, in token vouchers. And you can go to contribute to blockstack.org and check that out. And there's like a lot of ways that you can get involved. So I think it's going to be really, really big in this year for us to think about ways of incentivizing developers and ways of getting developers paid. Like the actual business models is a very, very important thing in this space.
To reward the work. Great. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much.